want to welcome you guys to another episode of The Jar, a sports podcast that brings you facts and opinions, and you guys decide if you like it, hate it, or want to steal it. Finals edition. Guys, I know you've been waiting on this. I've been waiting on this. Between the teams that we thought were going to make it and the teams that we actually saw made it, it was a pretty interesting playoffs on the Western Conference side. The East, we kind of had an idea with the injuries between Giannis and injury-plagued New York Knicks. And then you had the Miami Heat, of course, in the first round. And then, of course, you had Indiana with Halliburton going down and Mathurin was injured before the playoffs even started. We pretty much knew the Boston Celtics are going to make the finals, just how fast they were going to get there and how many games they were going to lose to get there. Excuse me. The West was a little different. You had the Denver Nuggets, who were the highly favored champs, playing against the Lakers. The Lakers fought well, but they lost in 5. You had the Dallas Mavericks, who played the Clippers. The Clippers had, of course, injury-plagued team with Kawhi Leonard mostly, so they, of course, went down, I think, in 5 or 6. You had the OKC Thunder, who swept the New Orleans Pelicans with Zion injured. We knew that series wasn't going to go long. You had OKC going against the Dallas Mavericks, which actually they put up a great fight, but it just came down to we have more bigs than you guys have, and Chet Holmgren being a little guy who couldn't defend or rebound, by that matter, because he's really not a big. He's more of a small forward, just 7'2". Then, of course, you had that Minnesota beating Denver, which I kind of picked that because the matchup wasn't well for Denver, and they played well. It was a great series. And then you had that finale, which came down to Minnesota versus Dallas, and Dallas prevailed. And I give them credit for that because I kind of thought Minnesota would exploit them size-wise, but actually it was the other way around. Dallas exploited them size-wise, and it wasn't even close. I mean, it just... Rudy was exposed a lot because he was putting a lot of pick and rolls, and he just don't have the foot speed. So as good as of a defender he may look at times in the season, because, 4 times defensive player of the year, I know a lot of people is going to say, why did he get it? But if you're getting it 4 times, you got to be doing something right. Not perfect, but something right. He just got exposed in the playoffs. And a lot of times that happen, right? We have a lot of MVPs in the season, but in the playoffs, they're totally different guys. James Harden being one of those people. Sorry, James, shooting you out there, but it is what it is. On top of that, you just saw in that series who was the better players in that series. I know a lot of us went into that series thinking Antman is going to show who he is. He's going to show up, show out. And really it was never like that. I know a lot of people want to blame Karl Anthony Towns, but honestly, Karl Anthony Towns follows Antman's lead. And Antman struggled in this series. I mean, it is what it is. He struggled. And it just came down to Luka being better than Ant and Kyrie being better than Ant, and Ant still trying to find his way. I mean, he's young, right? He has a lot of time. And Karl Anthony Towns didn't play good at all, but again, he has to follow Ant Edwards' lead. He's not one of those guys who can take over and say, hey, give me the ball, get out the way. He kind of follows the leader's lead, and then that's when they kind of go into who they are. From Antman to Karl Anthony Towns to Naz Reid, they follow their leader. And he struggled in that series, and because he struggled, they struggled. And that's what that series came down to. Again, you have Luka Doncic, he's phenomenal. I mean, he pretty much showed them that last game, you guys don't have a chance. I know you won 1 game, but I'm going to go ahead and step on you guys the first quarter because he pretty much outscored the Minnesota Timberwolves by himself in the first quarter. And you want to see that. You wanted to see if Antman could kind of say, no, we're not doing that. We're going to play 1 more game. But again, in the NBA, just like most sports, there's levels to this, right? And he has a little ways to go. Unlike the OKC series against Dallas, where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the best player in the series, he just really didn't have no help. and they were all undersized, and they played great defense because Kyrie only averaged 15 in that series, and Luka only averaged 24, 25. So they had the defense. They just didn't have the size and the rebounding. That's what got them defeated. In this series, it was just about who's the better player, and Rudy Gobert not being available how you need him available on a defensive end. And for that series, Antman needed to be the number 1 or number 2 best player in that series. He was the number 3 player in that series, and it was not even close, honestly. He looked good at times, but for the most part, he wasn't good. And unfortunately, with them getting to the point, and then he, sometimes, and again, I love Ant, we love Ant, he talks sometimes more than he was doing. And that's his game. It got him this far, I understand, but calling out Kyrie, saying, telling guys, hey, I'll get you a pair of shoes or get me some tickets or whatnot because I'll be back for the next game. Well, you'll be back in Minnesota. You need tickets. Just play the game, man. And again, everybody's different. I'm not going to knock him, but that's what it came down to. And he just, for all the talk he didn't back it up. And then Carl really didn't do anything because he was following him. And Luka and Kyrie were the better players in that series, and that's what won them the series. Ant-Man shows up. Ant-Man's the better player. Things come into fruition for those guys. He don't show up. He's not the best player. Carl can't get going. Nas had up and down parts in the season, in the series, and that's what happened. So Dallas took Minnesota down in 5. And finally, we're here, ladies and gentlemen, for the finals. I think this is going to be a good finals. I originally picked Minnesota and Boston Celtics, but this is very intriguing. Why do I say it's intriguing? Because you have Luka Doncic and Kyrie, probably the best backcourt they say ever. I don't like to say that because they haven't won, but skill-wise, talent-wise, they're probably the best backcourt we've ever seen. And I hate to give people that because they haven't done anything. And of course you have the old heads that say, hey, wait a minute, you can't forget about this. Well, I'm just going on what I've seen. And if you want to give Clay and Steph that, I would say you can have it, but I would say talent wise it's not close. Kyrie and Luka are the most talented that we've seen. And then on the other side you have a hell of a defensive perimeter team, starting with Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then you got the shot blocker in the back, Kristaps Porzingis, who is back, by the way. We don't know how healthy he is, but he is back. And I'm hoping that the series is everything we want it to be. The reason I said it is because Luka's been on a tear in that Western Conference Finals. Now, he didn't have it. I mean, for the most part, I ain't gonna say he didn't have anybody to defend him because there was times he struggled a little bit, but he's injured as well. And Jaden McDaniels played him good, but he just was stronger than Jaden McDaniels. At times, he had a lot of calls versus Jaden McDaniels. And Ant played him good at times, but for the most part, Ant was trying to score and defend, and it didn't work out. That's why you saw him mostly a little fatigued in the first 2 or 3 games because he had to guard him and Kyrie and try to score 30. And those are hellified players to try to pretty much hold below their average. So, that was not going well for them. Well, it's not like that with Boston. You can stick that bulldog on Luka Doncic and Kyrie, meaning you could sick Drew on Luka or Kyrie, and you could stick Derek White on Luka and Kyrie and say JT, Jaylen Brown, Cook. Or if you need to switch up, because they can switch everything and they could defend. For the most part, I like is they may not have to double team. Now, it depends. If Luka gets cooking, I don't care who it is. You might have to put some hands on them. But they don't, for the most part, have to double team. The Wolves find themselves double teaming a lot. And then when they didn't double team, they put Rudy Gobert in a pick and roll, which had him on the island. Kristaps is a little different. He's a perimeter-oriented big. He's 7'3", and he's more agile. Now, that calf is going to be a big thing because he injured himself and he's been out since the first round. So we're going to wonder how that goes. But I'm hoping that he's healthy enough and athletic enough to defend, because they're going to put him in pick and roll. We already know what Al Horford's going to go through. I mean, big reliable plays good. He actually hit 7 threes in a game this playoff, so he's always reliable in the playoffs. The real question is, how long is he reliable? Because he's going to have Gafford and Lively down there fighting him for rebounds. On top of that, he's going to have to chase around Luka and Kyrie when they put him in pick and rolls, which could expand a lot of his energy. This is where Kristaps comes in, because if they do play a two big tandem where they put Kristaps at the power forward and Al at the center, or vice versa, I think still they're a little more athletic to move their feet better than Rudy. Even Al, I think, can move his feet on the perimeter better than Rudy, and he's 175 years old. Sorry, Rudy. You just look bad. Between Jokic destroying you one game like you weren't out there and them putting you in a drop coverage, it just was bad. I mean, you got your trophies, you got your Defensive Player of the Years, though, but Jesus Christ. I mean, it literally... Anyway, so I think Kristaps and Al Horford to have a better chance against the pick and roll. And again, because you have those athletic wings out there with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they can help side a little bit and force Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington to beat them. Now, those guys have confidence coming into this round because PJ did good against OKC. He averaged 17 points a game, and then you had Derrick White, who was hitting wide open threes that he don't normally hit because he was so open against Minnesota. So I don't know if that rhythm's going to find them or is going to go with them, but that's going to be a lot of help. Now, on the defensive end, on the Dallas side, I'm assuming they're going to put Derrick Jones and PJ Washington on Jaylen and Jason. I'm sorry, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I don't know how long it's going to last, because if I was them, I would put those guys in pick and rolls, meaning Luka and Kyrie, and see how they can react. And I would do the same thing if it's Drew or Derrick White. See, I think they have more advantages because now, don't get me wrong, Luka has played some pretty good defense to his standard. Kyrie has played some pretty great defense to his standard. But are they willing to do that for the majority of the game? Because I'm putting them in the pick and roll every single time. And Gafford. Lively's the wild card coming off the bench. If he could be the Tyson Chandler of today, because that's all he is, that could be a problem because he brings a lot of energy. He gets every rebound and he gets every tip, dunk, lob that's thrown his way. But I will put him in the pick and roll as well. He's a little athletic. He's a little more nimble on his feet than Gafford, but Gafford's more stronger. So those two could be the wild cards, but at the same time, they could hurt them because if I'm putting them in a pick and roll, I'm telling them to defend Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum on the perimeter, as well as Derrick White, as well as Drew Holiday on the perimeter. And I'm saying, can you beat us doing that? The bench is two different things. Lively, Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't even play. I guess he's not. I guess he pretty much isn't needed for the playoffs period. He had one good game, but they don't need him. But then you got Hauser, who can shoot threes with his eyes closed. You got Peyton Pritchard, who's actually a great shooter, great point guard. It's going to be a good series. I just think this series is going to be needed because as good as Luka and Kyrie are, we're going to see if Drew, Derrick, Jason, and Jaylen are up for the challenge because those guys are incredible. But we've seen them get stopped. And when I say stopped, that means held to under their standard against OKC. And I think we forget that. Luka averaged 24, 25. Kyrie averaged 15. So it can be done. It's just Boston has the more of an advantage because they have bigs to go with the perimeter defense to tire them out on the offensive end because there's so much firepower on the offensive end against Dallas versus OKC, who had really one guy. So really, all in all, it really shouldn't be a lengthy series. We all want it to be. But Boston is Boston. They play down to their competition. They allow teams to beat them that they shouldn't. I mean, they did it all playoffs. They pretty much should have lost the first game if Rick Carlisle fouls Jaylen Brown. They shoot free throws or they don't. I mean, it just, they lost two of those games. One was, I think they were up 20. Miami beat them without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier. I mean, they do not. I'll say this. They know when to turn it up, when they need to turn it up, but I would say for the most part, they don't play up to their competition. They play below their competition. And when I say up to their competition, they treat it as if we're the best team out here, and they want to treat us like we're champions, even though we're not champions. And they could blow everybody out. It's a reason why they had the record for the most blowouts this year in the season, because at times things look so easy. But then you have those leads that they have and that record that they had at home where they just look like they don't care. And even for Drew Holiday, that's weird. But, sometimes they say when things are kind of sick, it kind of spill over into more things. And it seemed like that way of playing spilled over into Drew Holiday, where they look uninterested, where they let teams come back from a 10 or 15 point deficit. So the only things beating Boston is Boston, honestly. If Boston played their game, this game will be over in 5 or 6. We hope 7. But honestly, I like the matchup for Boston because of the defensive side that Dallas can do and the defensive side that Boston can do against Dallas. But we'll see. Because for the most part, Jason Tatum was a no-show against Golden State. Now, let's be honest. Against Golden State, he struggles in general. That doesn't mean he'll struggle against Dallas. And, I understand people are down on him and things, but, sometimes people have your kryptonite. I don't know why Golden State is one of those teams, even though they're undersized. But Dallas isn't that team. So that doesn't mean he's not going to show up for this series. And Jaylen Brown is going to do Jaylen Brown things. And Miami isn't out there defending them and pushing them left and playing aggressive and allowing the refs to let them play, even though they might be fouling a little too much. Dallas doesn't play like that. They've been playing top-notch defense, but not aggressive top-notch defense like Miami did against Boston. So I think Jaylen will do his thing. If Boston plays Boston game, we might be mad because this will be over quicker than we can look. If Boston lets up, we'll be looking up and we're saying, we're looking at a game 6 or a game 7, and it could go either way. It's just how talented Luka and Kyrie is, and it's just how uninterested Boston looks at times. And that's not even getting to their coach, who just looks like he's just out there. That's a whole nother story. So I'm interested like you guys are interested. I'm intrigued like you guys are intrigued. And we hope that we have a great NBA Finals, because let's be honest, that's all we got left. So real quick, you guys, I want to thank you guys for continuing to watch The Jar. If you do love the content that I'm putting out, please hit that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, your family, anybody that you can think of that loves to hear about sports, especially the sports going on now, whether it's NBA, NFL, who knows what topics we'll get into. It depends on the biggest things happening right then and now. I'll provide you guys the best opinionated information, the best factual information that I can think of, because again, we're viewers, we all have our opinions, and that's what I'm here for. Thank you guys again.